Hey everybody, it's Emily at ARC Schooling, and today I'm bringing you part 2 of my gigantic March book haul. So now I'm going to show you the rest of the haul of what I have purchased over the month of March, which is quite a lot of books, to be honest. First up, I have Susanna's Midnight Ride by Libby Cardy McNamee. This is a book my father sent me, and he thought it would be great for my youngest, but it's a young adult, so I don't think I'm going to read this with my 10-year-old just yet, but I'm going to put it on the shelf for her. He met this author, works in the tourism industry in Virginia, and so he sometimes gets to meet writers when they come in with their books that they want to sell. This has to do with a girl named Susanna who has some connection to the Revolutionary War, and she lives in City Point in Virginia, so I don't know. I'm excited to actually pick this up, and it is also signed. He had her sign it to my daughter, so I'm adding that to our signed book collection, but it sounds like a cute read. And I also picked up An Elephant in the Garden by Michael Morpurgo. This is a book that I hadn't really heard too much about, but when I saw that it had to do with the bombing of Dresden during World War II, and something to do with an elephant, and I just thought that's an interesting little side story to World War II that I've never heard before, so I wanted to check it out. This is middle grade. I'd like to read it at some point. Got a bunch of books with level 12 in mind, because even though I'm pretty sure I've solidified the book list, for some reason I still do this thing where I'm like, what if I change my mind? And so I buy more things. Anyway, I'm pretty sure I've settled, but I do have a few books here that are maybes. One of those maybes is Internment by Samira Ahmed. I have had this book like just in the back of my mind, like I need to get this book. So I pre-ordered it. I've been hearing so much about the premise of the story, and I just think it sounds so important. This is a story about a girl who lives in a near future America, and she's Muslim, and the government has decided that the Korematsu versus United States court case has set a precedent, and so they're going to start putting all Muslims into internment camps because they've decided that Muslims pose a danger to America. So this is a story about a girl who, her and her family get taken into one of these internment camps, and this is her story about what happens to her there and what that's like. And I really want to pick this up. Next up, I have Beloved by Toni Morrison. Again, this is a book that I've been wanting to read for forever. I've never heard a negative thing about it. It's just one of those books I feel like everyone should read. I'm finally gonna pick it up. This has to do with a woman, I believe she is a slave who has lost her child, maybe? I don't know. I feel like that's a plot point. But I've heard this is excellent, and I really want it to be in level 12, but I need to read it first, but I'm pretty sure. I also have Brothers of the Buffalo, a novel of the Red River War by Joseph Bruchac. I apparently am on a quest to read all of Joseph Bruchac. I never started out to do that, but I feel like I just keep picking up his books, so we're gonna make this a thing now. This takes place in 1874 in the Wild West, and they're corralling all the Native Americans to push them further back because they wanted the land. And so this is a story about that time and what happened, and I'd never heard of this book. I was trying to do some research on something totally different, as is usually the case with when I discover books, and this came up as a recommendation. I also picked up The Worst Hard Time by Timothy Egan, and I don't think this is going to fit in level 12 because I already had another book, but this is my option if I decide that book won't work. I have this, but it probably won't be in it. So anyway, this is nonfiction about the Great Depression. And I believe it is also specifically about the Dust Bowl. So this is about the Great American Dust Bowl during the Depression. So I've heard good things. It is a National Book Award winner, so it should be good. I also picked up Fool's Crow by James Welch. Again, this came up as a must-read when I was researching Native American literature. And I had, again, never heard of it. It sounds like a Western, and it takes place during the 1870s, so same time period of Brothers of the Buffalo. I also have My Name is Resolute by Nancy E. Turner, and this takes place, and my pile just fell. Oh dear. what am I gonna do? And this takes place in the 1700s, just before the Revolution, like leading up to the Revolution in America. And it follows our main character, who is Resolute Talbot, and how her life gets intertwined with the Revolution. And her family are captured by pirates, and so yeah, it sounds really good, and I'm actually very excited. I'm going to be reading this like really soon, so I'm pretty excited about it. Okay, these next 4 books are books that I bought for level 12 with the idea of this memoir rabbit trail thing. I don't even know what to call it right now. In my notes, I just have it listed as We Are America. So I don't know. I don't know where that's going yet. I'm still in the brewing stage, but I'll show you what I have. So I have Helen Keller, The Story of My Life. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl by Harriet Jacobs. And Letters of a Woman Homesteader by Eleanor Pruitt Stewart. I don't know how this is going to work out, if it's going to happen. I might run out of time and I just can't do it, but I don't know. I just have this great idea for this memoir thing so that you can like experience America through other people's eyes specifically, and not in historical fiction manner, but in a these people existed and this is their life kind of a way. I don't know. I think it sounds cool, I just don't know how to make it work yet. Next up I have the book Starfish by Akemi Dawn Bowman. I heard Chelsea Palmer. If you don't follow Chelsea Palmer on YouTube, she's got a booktube channel. I love her. I've been obsessed with her videos lately. I just like been binging them. And she mentioned this book and I was just so intrigued, and the cover is so beautiful. And so I decided I needed to buy it and read it for myself and see what I think. So this, I believe, is about a girl who is half Japanese, and she lives with her mother, who is white, and her mother has been trying to kind of erase her Japaneseness and get her to be more white, basically, to embrace her other half. And this is her story about kind of learning more about her Japanese roots. I don't know much more than that. Obviously, it sounds like she has a terrible relationship with her mother. And yeah, I think it sounds really interesting. I also picked up Mare's War by Tanita S. Davis, mainly because I just was so excited by the premise. This is a World War II story, but this is a story about a black woman who fought in the war. And I was just, that's such an interesting premise, and not a story you hear very often. I mean, I read a lot about World War II, and I don't think I've ever read anything where it was about an African-American woman taking part in the war. So I'm really excited to pick this up. I got a few more Neal Shusterman books because why wouldn't I? I picked up The Schwab Was Here, and I don't know anything about what this is, but it's standalone. And I want to say this one might be more middle grade than young adult, but I'm not sure. And I discovered a new series. I'm so excited because I've never heard of the series. This is the Star Shards Chronicles. And I was more excited than anything that this copy was signed. So book 1 is the Scorpion Shards, and mine is an autographed copy. Book 2 is The Thief of Souls, and book 3 is The Shattered Sky. I have no idea what this series is about. I've literally never heard of it. But it's Neal Shusterman, and in my quest to read all of the Shusterman, I felt like I ought to go ahead and grab a set. I also picked up Vasa in the Night by Sarah Porter. This caught my eye because it's a Russian fantasy, like Russian urban fantasy fairy tale retelling, and I was intrigued. It's also one of those covers that just like screams out at you. It's so stunningly simplistically beautiful. I just really like this cover a lot. I have no idea if this is any good. I've never heard anyone talk about it. Like, I've literally never heard anyone mention it before, so I hope that that isn't because it's terrible. I'm very excited about this one. I also picked up a copy of The Queens of Innis Lear. This is one of those books that I've been anticipating for a long time. This is I believe, a King Lear retelling, and it focuses on the women in the story, and I just need it. But everything here is beautiful by Mira T. Lee. Lauren at Read Family Reads on Instagram mentioned this a while back and I was very intrigued, so I decided to go ahead and pick up a copy. I believe this has to do with mental illness, and it sounds like a really important and beautiful book. Also picked up The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. I seem to be collecting a lot of Paul Tremblay books, but I haven't read any of them yet. And I don't know why. I know I'm going to enjoy them, I think, because his books all sound really intriguing. So I need to pick these up. This one I honestly don't know anything about beyond that it has to do with a cabin in the woods, and I mean, that's one of those great starting points for a really creepy story, and so this is horror. Or I don't know if it's horror or if it's more of a thriller that leans toward horror. I'm not sure. But I know it sounds really creepy, and I want to read his books. Just so you know, and I've edited it all out, but my pile I've been like stacking beside me, trying to make it tall, and it was like up here, but off camera you can't see it. It was up this high, and as I'm picking up the last book, the last one, the whole thing fell. And it's fallen twice in the time I filmed. So, moving on. The last book I want to show you is one I also got because of Chelsea Palmer. Every time I watch her channel, I'm like adding books to my cart, and I have to stop. But I picked this up because she said she got it really cheap on Book Outlet, and that's the book that pushed me into ordering what was in my cart on Book Outlet anyway. And that book is Semiosis by Sue Birk. This is a science fiction that has to do with people going to this planet that seems like this green, lush, perfect place for humanity to thrive, except that the plants are sentient and they start to attack. And I think that synopsis just is everything I want in a science fiction book. I don't know. I'm very excited about it. It sounds great. And it sounds also kind of similar in feel to The Knife of Never Letting Go, except like the horror version of that story. I don't know. I'm excited about it. I really want to read it. Oh no, I'm not done. I thought I was done. Just kidding. I have one more stack over here. I have another stack that I moved out of the way because I was afraid it would be too much to put in front of me on this box. The rest of my haul, I didn't think this was right. I also picked up The Fever King by Victoria Lee. This was one of those books that screamed at me that I needed to read it. It was everywhere. Every time I went on the internet, it was in my face. So I decided to go ahead and pick it up. The premise that I had originally heard was that it has to do with immigrants and immigration and illegal immigration particularly, and I wanted to read that, and then I got excited because I heard elsewhere that there is Jewish representation in this book, and I was like, are you serious? So I was really excited. I'm very excited about it still, because it is hard to find books that have Jews in them outside of World War II. So I'm excited that there is a Jewish fantasy novel. Is that a thing? I'm excited that might be a thing. I also picked up the latest in the Rick Riordan Presents series, and this is Sal and Gabby Break the Universe by Carlos Hernandez. I don't know too much. It has something to do with Mexico, Mayan, potentially. If I'm wrong, I don't know. Let me know. But I think that this is some sort of Mexican-inspired fantasy. I also picked up The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey. This is I want to say a retelling of something, but it also takes place in Alaska in the 1920s. So, I don't know, I've heard like some magical realism things about it maybe, or something like that. I'm not sure. But I wanted to pick this up. This is actually a book I bought for my daughter, but she left it here because she didn't want to take it with her to school since she knew she wasn't going to get to it right now. So that is In an Absent Dream by Shauna McGuire. This is the newest book in the Wayward Children's series, and I actually do want to get to this at some point. I read the first book, Every Heart a Doorway. Really enjoyed it. I just haven't had a chance to pick up the other books yet, and they're making this into a series, I believe, on TV. Maybe Netflix, I'm not sure. But it's being adapted, and so I'm excited about that. This book in particular follows the backstory of Lundy, who is one of the characters you meet in the first book. I picked up Speak by Laurie House Anderson, mainly because I don't think I've ever read this. And it's one of those books that everyone talks about. It's on every list of you must read these books. And I don't think I've ever picked this up. So this is about, I think it's about a girl who gets raped. Maybe. I'm not sure. And it was also written a while ago. When was this written? Yeah, copyright is 1999, so this would have come out like the year after I graduated high school, so this has been out for a while. So this is a classic, and I've never read it, so I'm gonna try to get to that sometime. I also picked up Once by Morris Gleitzman, and this is another Holocaust story, and I don't really know a whole lot about it, besides it came up as a recommendation somewhere. Start of a series, I think. I want to say, yeah, this is Once, and then I think the other two books are Then and Now. And so, yeah, it's historical fiction, Holocaust story. I also picked up this Philippa Gregory book that I had never read before, or never heard of before, because it takes place during World War I. And I honestly haven't read a lot of books that take place in that time period, which is strange because every time I do read something that's to do with World War I, I'm like, this would be so great to read more about. And there should be more books in that time period. So I was excited to find a Philippa Gregory book that takes place during World War I. I don't know anything about this. I don't know if this is part of a series, but I want to say this is like a standalone story. So I'm excited. And the last book, the really last book that I have in my haul, not joking this time, is Sky Without Stars by Jessica Brody and Joanne Rendell. When I saw that this was a Les Mis retelling in space, it was like I could not hit that buy button fast enough. I was so excited. I don't even know. I want this to be amazing. Jessica Brody, I know I've read her before because she is one of the writers in the Lady Janie series, and I loved the first book in that series. I have both of them. I haven't read the second one yet. She's one of the writers on this, and oh my gosh, Les Mis retelling. Les Miserables is maybe my very favorite musical of all time ever, and I've been obsessed with it since I was in high school. And my best friend at the time introduced me to it, and I love Les Miserables. And so, Les Mis in space sounds excellent. So I really want this to be great. I need it to be great. I wanted to show you guys all the books, but I can't lift them. I'm not even sure how many there are, to be honest. It's a lot. So my previous video, I had 20 books. This one I had 32. So, that is a lot of books. Am I sad about it? Not even a little. I'm so excited about almost all of these books, so I am pleased with my selections this month. I was going to try to lift, but let's be realistic and not kill myself. So I'm going to it'll be in the thumbnail. You'll be able to see in the thumbnails how ridiculous I got with books this month. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I upload something to my channel every single week, and sometimes twice. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Happy reading. Bye!